Does my hair look okay? Yeah, everything in place? In focus? Let's begin. Good day to you all. Yes, it's Thursday the 2nd of May when I'm recording this. My name is Donato and your host for today's video where Parkrun. Hello, what's going on? Yes guys, I don't know whether you know, but in my previous video a number of weeks ago, I just published a video talking about how I felt about the statistics being removed by Parkrun organisations. Statistics like age records, course records, all that type of stuff has all been removed, and myself being a course record holder and age category record holder at various parkruns, I wasn't too happy about that and felt a bit excluded. But that was just my viewpoint. Here's an update of what happened only the other week, because obviously people were up in arms about it, raised petitions, and one of those petitions was raised on change.org, and I'm going to go through that and literally just scroll through the letter and feedback from the meeting with Parkrun on the 27th of April 2024, which was literally last week. So it's a write-up by Mary Taylor. And yeah, it's interesting. So I'm just going to literally scroll through the letter so you can read the letter as well. I'll put a link in the description to the letter as well. And I'd love to hear your opinions on this. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. I'm entitled to an opinion. Some opinions may be wrong. Some maybe you might agree with. Some you may disagree with. But I'd like you to keep the comments respectful between each other. And as I say, everybody's entitled to an opinion. So you can say what the hell you want to me, what you think about my opinion, but please be respectful and mindful of other people's comments, because they are not me. So I might be a bit more thick-skinned, and you're entitled to say whatever you want. I'm not one of these YouTubers who deletes comments because it doesn't fit my narrative or agenda or doesn't make me look good. At the end of the day, I really don't give a shit. Yes, that's right. You can say whatever you want. And yeah, you can be as offensive or whatever. Yeah, say that to me, fine. And at the end of the day, people know me and they know what I'm like. So for people who've never met me and anonymous accounts, they can say whatever they want, and I really don't give a shit about them. But I do give a shit about you genuine people out there and what you say and do on here as well. So without further ado, let me go through the letter. And there's some things there which are quite a shocker, really. Some of you may not be shocked, and others will be shocked. Yeah, so let's go through this. Okay, as mentioned, yes, here is the letter. So on change.org website, there was the petition with regards to reinstating the statistics on Parkrun for all participants. As I said, this is by updated by Mary Taylor, who's based in Rugby, England, United Kingdom. 28th of April. So I'm going to go through the letter of what it says. You can fast forward through this if you don't want to hear me reading it out, or my views and opinions on various points raised. And this is as has been documented by Mary and the group who were there. So as arranged, we met up with Russ Jeffries at Higginson Parkrun in Marlow, and after the event sat down together in a quiet local pub. Russ arrived with Paul Sinton Hewitt, the Parkrun founder, and from our side we had Will Hartley, Mary Taylor and Alexander Smotrov, another signer of our open letters to Parkrun. We started the meeting by sharing a little of our personal backgrounds in Parkrun, including our personal reasons for valuing the course stats. We said we were looking for a positive way forward towards resolving the issues of their removal. Russ stated that there was no way that the stats would be brought back, and Parkrun was very comfortable with their decision. He talked about their 5-year plan, that they have chosen to stay the same size but instead want to expand to reach more people. They could have chosen to stay the same size but instead want to expand to reach more people. He explained their beliefs of the barriers to participation of many people, not understanding that it is not a race, and wishing to benefit and reach those who might not be currently active. He said it fitted with Parkrun's ethos. Just to give you a bit of background there before I go on to the next bit, Russ has said he's comfortable with a lot of things in history and has changed his mind. Also for myself, when I took up Parkrun, I thought it was a race. Wrongly, or rightly, that's what I thought it was. So every parkrun I turned up to, I ran as fast as I can. Not to race other people, but to race myself and get a PB each time. I wanted to go as fast as I could. So that's why I took up parkrun. And so going on with the letter, we raised the fact that so many runners feel that parkrun is not also balancing looking after the needs of his existing runners and volunteers. Russ and Paul seemed to suggest that this wasn't as important and was not in line with their charity goals. Paul Sinton Hewitt then went on to say that the numbers of people who signed the petition were minuscule and not important in terms of their bigger picture. We objected, saying that over 26,000 is significant. Russ responded by saying that even if a majority of parkrunners had signed the petition or voted, they would not reinstate the statistics. Paul then went on to say that for each of the disgruntled participants, whether they are a runner, walker or run director, if they leave parkrun, there'll be another 100 runners to take their place. They suggested that our campaign was just another in a long line of issues such as Canicross, Points Stats League, Egg Gate, etc. Well, I don't know what your view is on what's being said there by Russ and Paul Sinton Hewitt, but it sounds very dismissive in my opinion. Going on to the next paragraph, we raised the fact that our polls appear to indicate that most bring back the stats supporters are longer term parkrunners, that over 90% of the BBTS Facebook group have run over 40 parkruns, putting them in the top 5% of most active participants, and that a very large proportion have run hundreds. We also comprise many current run directors, event directors, and some ambassadors too. We are a group that have invested hugely in parkrun and therefore believe that adds to our significance. Russ and Paul said it wasn't fair to say if someone had done many parkruns that they should have more of a say or weight than someone who has done one parkrun. Again, that sounds a bit dismissive. We asked why, if parkrun was a community event, why they wouldn't listen to their community and take on board feedback in our petition and letters. It would be a strength to show they valued their community if they acted constructively to our feedback of importance of the stats to us. Paul stated, we are not a community-led organisation and we make our decisions from the top down. That is how we operate and that is in our charter. We responded by saying this view would be seen as disappointing by many parkrunners. Well, yes, I agree. I find that statement extremely disappointing. And to the next paragraph. We asked about why the stats could not be reinstated whilst continuing to promote parkrun and achieving their 5-year plan goals. Perhaps in a more discreet place or using an opt-in system, as Mark Purvis and others have suggested. They said they have looked into this and again referred to their growth strategy. They talked about how parkrun with a large organisation now, and Russ mentioned how it was getting more expensive to run events. They needed to change the structure to suit this. Paul Sinton Hewitt then gave an analogy of, this is our playground, we made it, we set the rules of it. If you don't like it, perhaps you should play somewhere else. Paul said that if you want to be competitive, then join a club. Well, you make what you want of that statement. So that sounds, extremely arrogant, to put it mildly. Yeah, it's our playground and we set the rules. If you don't like it, bugger off, basically. I do get the feeling a lot of people will be buggering off after this. So going on to the next statement, I digress. We put it to them again that we believe parkrun can present itself in a way it wishes whilst maintaining the core statistics, albeit in a less prominent way. We reminded them of the age categories and how they gave many runners motivation and a sense of achievement, particularly older runners. Paul talked about how he wrote the code for these stats originally and was happy that they were now gone. They talked about how the organisation has changed. They are bigger now and they have to be more conscious of how they operate. Paul said parkrun is not a sport and they have always said it is not a race. He said, When people have described or interpreted parkrun as a sport, it has caused various headaches and problems for them over the last 20 years. He said other organisations can come in, point out sport or race features and cause problems. Save Women's Sport was mentioned, and Paul said that a byproduct of removing the stats was helping to address the gender thing. He elaborated that if stats were returned, these protesters would then have grounds again to attack Parkrun for their stance on this issue. Parkrun want to convey that it's not a sport or competitive to avoid this amongst other issues. I'm totally confused now. I thought when I'm taking part in running, whatever running, that it's a sport. Running is a sport, isn't it? I'm really confused here. But anyway, moving on. It says here, moving on to future changes. They shared various ideas that they may happen at some point in the future, but without any commitments. Russ mentioned various issues they experience with data security, stalking and privacy resulting from their publicly available results data. It goes on and on and on. So they're talking about envisaging Parkrun to have a social aspect where you can befriend or follow other runners. Might be on Strava, Facebook or Strava. And they expect this in part of the 5-year plan by January 2028. So it looks like they're looking to do something a bit like a social media platform. Wow. Yes. Okay. And we go on and on. Paul then said Parkrun are not committed to providing a time. He said that this is something taken for granted. But providing a time was not a core element for them. Unlike viewing data, they said they do not plan to remove the times as part of their 5-year plan. However, Paul insisted to us that they had the right to remove it if they wanted to. They mentioned that a third-party app might develop it in the future to use the data to create stats that people wanted, but this would only happen if they gave their permission. Now, that statement I find utterly confusing, from my perspective, because the very first parkrun, it was timed. It's been timed from the very beginning, hasn't it? So I don't understand why now he says it should be taken for granted. That's how it started, at its foundation, surely. Anyway, we go on to the next one. It's fun, this letter, isn't it? Yeah. Russ complained that he has had some abuse and attacks online on himself personally, which is not nice. And although we accept it comes with the role and didn't think we were personally responsible, we wanted to raise this to our wider group. Paul Sinton-Hewitt agreed with this, saying it was out of line. He also said there were foul-mouthed emails sent to volunteers and staff at Parkrun HQ that were not okay. We said we were sorry that this has happened, that we do not condone this, but reminded them that it's not a reflection of the approach of our Bring Back the Stats group, but down to the smaller number of individuals involved. And I would concur with that. As I've said here, I'm a fan of parkrun. I love my parkruns. That type of behaviour is not acceptable, really, personal attacks to people. But again, on that side, I'm sort of wondering whether it's a bit of a deflection strategy. And Russ goes on to express that he was unhappy with our group continuing to apply pressure after the meeting was arranged. He said that our group had the power to harm Parkrun, that we could cause them to lose sponsors and funding with our continued actions, which would ultimately harm Parkrun for everyone. Well, yeah, I'd love to hear your comments on that particular statement, because action, reaction, change. Well, as I'll go on and read, as the meeting concluded, we made suggestions to ascertain what Parkrun would be willing to commit. Russ said he was happy to commit to better communication for future changes. They would provide more data and communication. He was happy to commit to the concept of involvement for parkrunners in decision making, but we ran out of time for him to elaborate on how this would work. Now you can go on and read the conclusions that these guys say. And scroll back. Sorry, I should be going slowly. Now, for me, my conclusion on there is they're clearly not happy about this. I think Parkrun has got to a size now where it is huge. It is basically a corporate. I appreciate that it is virtually totally dependent on the volunteers. If all the volunteers parked up and left, pun intended, there'd be no Parkrun. I am aware, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that some of the core team of volunteers are paid. I don't know how much they're paid, but they are remunerated in some way. So it's not all totally free volunteers. And yeah, at the end of the day, there are some individuals who are paid a lot of money. I'm sure there's all sorts of parkrun stuff going on that has gone on in the past. If I wanted to dig out of people being paid literally hundreds of thousands of pounds to do certain things, yeah, there's a lot of money slushing around. So clearly things are happening there, and it's up to you what you want to do. Some people said it's now time for competition to arrive. They are a monopoly. There is no competition. I've been thinking of starting a group in a long time, but not in competition with Parkrun. It's in addition to, totally separate. And the runs that I would be looking to organise is more of a fun jiggy jog type stuff. So I was thinking of Saturday Smiles, you know, and not at the same time as Parkrun, because I wouldn't do that. But in terms of more fun, yeah, as I say, the jiggy jog, maybe the jiggy jog run or something like that. And, you know, we can go on and dice and disseminate what's going on with Parkrun. But I would like to give you this analogy. This is just my viewpoint, and this is just an analogy which you can take away as a bite, you know. And as I said, you can read the full letter in the link in the description. But I do recall, and sometimes, you know, this may be comparing apples and bananas, but there was an organisation many moons ago, nothing to do with running. It was a mobile telco. Now, I've worked professionally in mobile telecommunications. There was a company called Orange in the UK. Do you remember that? Now, Orange as a telco still does exist in some countries, but in the UK, it's long gone. But back in the days when it started, there was wonderful marketing and hype, and it was the smallest mobile telco. The future is bright. The future is Orange. It built its foundation on its core values, which was the customer was first. And it grew to such a level it became the #1 mobile telco, beating all the big boys, you know, BT, Cellnet, Vodafone, absolutely destroying them. But something changed when it became #1, and it's now gone. So a lot of organisations grow to a certain level, and then something changes at the top, or changes, and as it's been said here and clearly stipulated, that they make their decisions top down. It's nothing to do with the community. The community can say what they want, but it's not community driven, it's top down driven. They have clearly stated that, unless they've now corrected that letter and said, no, we didn't say that. Draw your conclusions from that, but Orange has gone. Is Parkrun going to go? I believe Parkrun will never go, will never disappear. It's just too big, too huge. There's too many people and industries who have an invested interest in this to keep it going, and it will keep going in some form or type. But I do believe competition is on its way big time, and whether it's small organisations in little clusters all doing their own thing, like I'm going to do here in Worcester, and other locations as well, whether I call it the Jiggy Jog or the Saturday Smiles or whatever. It might be another day of the week, who knows. But I do know Great Run organisation, you know, the Great North Run. They did start one off a number of years ago, pre-lockdown. I think it was called Great Run Local, but that was attacked quite a lot. Now, Russ talks about personal attacks. That organisation was attacked big time by a lot of people saying, oh, you're only copying Parkrun and doing all that, yeah. But it was on a Sunday. You know, I think it was at a different time, might be 9 or 10 a.m. I can't recall exactly, but that disappeared. So it seems these organisations are happy to be here as long as the money's coming in. When the money's not coming in, they're gone. Yeah, so it's quite sad, really. It started as a great thing, and it's grown to be a great thing, and it is great. But it's almost like no dough, no show. Yeah, is that what Parkrun has become now? As I say, that's just my view. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. So I did read the letter. I was going to go through in the conclusions. You can read the conclusions, and it says sign a petition. But that's it from me. Let me pause the player. I better stop the player. Oh, there you go. So that's it from me. And as I said, I still do parkruns. I love going to the parkruns here local in Worcester. There's 2. I'm very fortunate that there is 2. And I know a lot of the core teams and made some great friends, and there's some lovely people there who help it. That's the people that make Parkrun. For me, it's almost like I don't really care what these head honchos say and do. However, I do care because I think it's having an adverse effect on the organisation as a whole. But again, as I said, that's just my viewpoint. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you all soon at the next video, because May is spring has sprung. Yes, we had a bit of sunshine. So I've got a month of some epic races and events, from 1 mile races to 10K, pacing some 10Ks and half marathons throughout the month away. So be sure, month of May, I say that too quickly. So be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that alarm bell, and keep on watching these videos. And I love you all, and see you all very, very, very soon. Bum bum. Does my hair look okay? Yeah, everything in place, in focus. Let's begin. What day is it? Oh, it's Thursday the 2nd of May.